Please welcome Jesse Israel, founder of The Big Quiet and MediClub.
Morning, everybody. My name is Jesse Israel. I just want to start by acknowledging how honored I am to share the stage with a group of people that have had such varied experience. My story is a story of privilege, and it starts when I was 20 years old. I was a sophomore at NYU, and my roommate and I signed a band called MGMT. They were a college band. And over the course of the next couple years, we created a record label to put out MGMT's first album and had a really fun ride developing a successful music company as young guys. On the outside, life was good. I had this successful company. I was in my early 20s, great family and good friends. But on the inside, I had a lot of stuff going on that was confusing. I was dealing with bouts of depression. I had pretty debilitating anxiety, and I was experiencing panic attacks. For anyone that's never experienced a panic attack before, you're lucky. Your chest tightens up, your heart beats, you start to sweat, and it kind of feels like doom is upon you. It's a really uncomfortable way of being. So one of the things that was really challenging for me in this period of my life was it seemed that I was the only person that was going through this kind of stuff. My peers appeared to be crushing it, and there was no conversation for me as a young man about mental health. There was no conversation with my family or my peers about this kind of stuff, and it was isolating. It felt like I was the only person going through it. It created a sense of loneliness. So in this path on my journey, I started to look at ways that I could cope with this while going through it alone. I explored therapy, I explored different medications, and eventually I found meditation. Meditation was the one that resonated most with me. And over the next couple years, I built a pretty meaningful practice into my life. With time, I started to find that stress and anxiety cooled off, and I'd be able to become more clear with who I was in the world, what I wanted to stand for. And I made a decision to leave the music industry and to start organizing group meditations with peers in New York. It was kind of weird because it was very different than what I was doing before. I didn't know how I would make money doing it, but it was something that I was called to exploring. So I held a group session with friends that I knew from different industries, some entrepreneurs, some creatives, some activists, and about 20 of us gathered in an apartment in downtown Manhattan, and we shared 20 minutes of meditation together. And afterwards, I decided that I would speak up a little bit about my experience, some of my relationship with mental health challenges, some of the uncertainty I was feeling around what I would do next in my life, acknowledging the privilege that I was also living into and not really sure how it kind of fit into other people's experiences. I just vocalized what was real for me. And it was nerve-wracking to speak my truth to a group of colleagues, to a group of friends and acquaintances. But something really cool happened in that moment. What I realized was that everybody else in the room was pretty much going through the same stuff. Other people were experiencing challenges around depression or anxiety. People had doubts about their careers, their relationships. And in that moment, really for the first time in New York, I felt like I belonged to a group of people. I started to feel human. It was a powerful moment for me, and I decided that I would continue to give myself to gathering people, to meditate, and to have space to talk about what was real in their lives. After about 5 or 6 months of doing this, we saw that hundreds of people were starting to show up to our gatherings. And we realized there was an opportunity to take what we were creating and share it with the rest of the city, so our community formed The Big Quiet. The first Big Quiet was about 3 years ago. It was a partnership with the City Parks Foundation, and at Central Park Summer Stage, we brought together about 1,500 people to have a moment of shared quiet, meditation, to have some meaningful conversations, and then to enjoy performances and sort of celebrate the good in life. And it worked. Something about it felt really good. So we continued to build. And over the past several years, our monthly gathering still occurs. We meet in Greenpoint. It's a couple hundred people. It's called MediClub. We share a meditation. Someone gets up in front of the group and talks about what they're living through, a challenge, some sort of issue that's real for them. We've talked about things like body image, mental health, career transition, whatever's real for people at this period in their lives. We then break up into groups and have opportunities to talk about how we can relate to other people's experiences. And the Big Quiet has continued to grow as well. The Big Quiet has hosted mass meditations at places like Madison Square Garden, 2 months ago, we did it under the Blue Whale, the Natural History Museum. We've done it at the top 3 floors of the World Trade Center, where we had 1,100 people sharing a moment of quiet with 300,000 people tune in from around the world. And next month, we're taking the Big Quiet experience to other cities. We're going on the first mass meditation tour. We're going to be going to San Francisco, Los Angeles, Chicago, Austin. We also have a program where we have trained about 100 different individuals to host their own small groups where they can gather in their homes and in their offices to share in meditation and to talk about what's going on in their lives. So for me, it's been really interesting to dedicate myself to spreading these values and finding ways to raise up other people to share them as well. And as I've seen this thing grow so fast, what's become really clear to me is that what people crave most is human connection. And when we can provide people with just the simplest permission to connect and just a little bit of room to contribute to something greater, people start to feel seen. They start to feel heard. They feel like they're a part of something greater than themselves. And when that happens, we start to grow as individuals and as societies. And science supports the power of this. Science shows that when people come together to collaborate and to contribute and cooperate in groups, oxytocin is triggered in the brain, which creates a sense of well-being. It empowers happiness. It allows us to feel healthier. And studies have also shown that people who are parts of faith-based or spiritual communities that gather a minimum of 4 times a month are likely to live 14 years longer than an individual who's not a part of a community or is experiencing loneliness in their lives. And this information is really interesting at a time where we're seeing that human beings are afflicted with some of the highest rates of depression, anxiety, loneliness, poor health ever before in recorded human history. So I've also felt like as community is built around space to talk, about space to connect, for us to really be able to show up for our communities, for us to be able to really show up as movement makers, as leaders, as activists, as global citizens, we must first really look at how we can take care of ourselves. Not only be there for each other, but really build practices into our own lives that allow us to get clear about who we are, what we're here to do, and how we can do it in sustainable ways. The reality is, my experience living in a city like New York is becoming unsustainable. The amount of constant contact, the regular input, the demands of our jobs, the demands of our relationships, our families, the subways, the taxis, it's a lot. And it's so important for us to think about how we can first take care of ourselves so we can better serve others. And this is why meditation has become so important to me. That's a really quick version of my story. And what I want to make sure we have a little bit of time for is to actually share a moment of meditation together so we can, as a group here, ground, prepare ourselves for building community for the rest of the day. There's some really exciting tracks that are lined up. And just to have a moment to refresh and to take a break from all the chaos of out there. So what I want to ask of the group is for everybody to just give themselves permission to let go for a second. And if you're comfortable doing this, to close your device. It's only going to be for 2 minutes. Close the screen, silence it if you're comfortable doing that. Allow yourself to get comfortable in your chair. We've got these nice plush seats, great for meditation. If it feels good to you, you can put both your feet on the ground. And as we prepare to go into our meditation, let's go ahead and close our eyes. And now together as a group, let's take a big breath into the belly and into the chest, and then let it out. We're going to do this again. Big breath into the belly, into the chest, and then audibly let it out. And let's do this again. A big breath, filling the belly, filling up the chest, holding it for a moment. and then audibly letting it out. Noticing the sound of several hundred people breathing together. It's a rare sound. And now just noticing what a room sounds like when several hundred people are sitting together in total quiet. We'll take a moment to just notice our bodies. This is a practice that allows us to be very present. It grounds us and provides us with a sense of focus for the rest of the day. We start by thinking about our feet and noticing any sensations, the skin of your feet touching your socks or your shoes. And then bringing your attention past your legs, past your knees, to your hips, and noticing the weight of your body in your chair, noticing gravity pulling you into your seat. And bringing your attention up past your back, noticing your shoulders and where your neck meets your shoulders. And noticing your head. Are you able to notice the sensation of your hair on your scalp? And then moving to your nostrils, to your nose, noticing the breath, moving effortlessly in and out. Noticing your chest rise and fall as it does on its own without any control or force. And before we go into the next portion of today's programming, let's just take a moment to acknowledge the fact that such a dynamic group of people have come together with an intention to really create change in the world. How rare it is for people like this to gather with such great intention, and for people with such busy lives to just take a moment to be quiet together. And we'll close with a moment of gratitude for the fact that we're all able to be in this room, to be in New York City, to be a part of this. And as you feel ready, begin to slowly open your eyes. And as you start to come back to the room, just take a moment to just look around at the other people who are here with you. That's something we don't do too often at conferences. Other humans. Maybe give a little smile if you feel like it. Thank you for listening to my story. Thanks for taking a moment to share in meditation. Have a great rest of your day.